The unexpected promotion. The unexpected promotion. John was not a hero. He was not a soldier or a great leader. He was just a technician on the interstellar fleet's huge space station. He fixed machines, worked late nights, and mostly stayed out of trouble. John never wanted more than a quiet life, away from danger. But his life was about to change in a way he never dreamed. The fleet was huge and busy. Many ships flew in and out every day. Some were fast scouts, some were powerful warships. John worked in the repair bay, fixing small parts of many ships. He knew almost nothing about commanding a ship or fighting in space. That was for the officers and soldiers. One cold morning, John was drinking weak coffee when an urgent message came over the station's loudspeaker. All officers report to command center immediately. John froze. He was not an officer. Why would they call him? Curious and nervous, John followed the crowd to the command center. The room was full of people in uniforms, all tense and serious. At the front stood Admiral Karen, a strong woman with sharp eyes. She looked at the crowd and then at John. "John, come here," she said calmly. John's heart beat fast. "Me, Admiral." "Yes," she said. "We have an emergency. Your skills and calm, under pressure, are needed. Effective immediately, you are captain of the warship Valiant." The room gasped. John could not believe his ears. Captain? Warship? Him? He felt his knees shake. "But Admiral," John stammered, "I'm not trained for that. I don't even know the ship well." "It does not matter," Admiral Karen said firmly. "All other officers are lost or missing. The Valiant needs a captain. You are the only choice." John swallowed hard. This was not a joke. He was now in charge of a warship filled with soldiers and weapons. He did not know how to lead, fight, or even give orders. He walked quickly to the docking bay where the Valiant waited. It was a large ship, old but still powerful. The hull was scratched and worn, showing signs of many battles. Some said it was cursed, but no one dared say that aloud. As John boarded the ship, he felt a strange silence. The corridors were dim and cold. The air smelled like metal and oil. He wondered what kind of people he would meet here. When he reached the bridge, he was surprised. The crew was unlike any he had ever seen. They were tall and strong, but also very beautiful. Their skin had a soft glow and their eyes shone like stars. These were not humans. They were alien warriors from a distant planet. John looked at them nervously. They watched him with quiet eyes, no smiles, no words. Their armor was sleek and strange, and they carried weapons even in this calm place. The oldest among them, a woman named Lyra, stepped forward. Her voice was soft but firm. "Captain, we are waiting for your orders." John swallowed again. I am not trained to command. I don't know your ways." Lyra's eyes narrowed, but she did not speak. The others looked at John with a mix of curiosity and doubt. He felt small in that large, cold room. How could he lead such fierce warriors? What if he failed? As John tried to speak, the ship suddenly shook. Alarms rang loudly. Red lights flashed. "Attack!" shouted a young crew member. "Enemy ships approaching fast." John's heart raced. He looked at the screens. On the radar, dark shapes moved closer. The aliens prepared quickly. Their weapons hummed and charged. Lyra moved with grace and speed, giving orders in their strange language. John realized this was no time to be scared. The fate of the Valiant and its crew was now in his hands. He took a deep breath and tried to remember what he had learned in his limited training. "Shields up, weapons ready," he shouted, surprising himself. The crew moved faster. The alien warriors worked together like a single living machine. Outside, the enemy ships closed in, firing bright lasers and missiles. John watched the battle unfold on the screens. His hands shook as he gave orders, sometimes unsure if he was right. One of the alien warriors, a tall man with silver hair, stood by his side and helped him understand the controls. Slowly, John felt something change inside him. Fear mixed with a strange courage. He saw the Valiant respond to his commands. The shields held and their weapons fired back. The enemy ships were strong, but the Valiant fought harder. After what felt like hours but was only minutes, the enemy retreated. The alarms stopped. Silence returned to the ship. John looked around at the crew. They were tired but alive. Some gave him a small nod, a sign of respect. Lyra approached again. "You did well, Captain. We will follow you if you learn to lead." John smiled weakly. It was only the beginning. But maybe, just maybe, he could be the leader they needed. As the stars shone outside the windows, John felt the weight of command settle on his shoulders. The journey ahead would be dangerous and uncertain, but he was ready to face it. First contact with the crew, after the battle, the quiet on the warship was heavy and strange. John sat alone in the captain's chair, still trying to believe what had happened. He had never imagined he would command a ship, much less survive an attack with a crew of alien warriors. Yet, here he was. The weight of responsibility pressed on him harder than ever. The crew gathered in the main hall, their tall, graceful figures standing close but silent. The air was thick with tension. John knew that trust was something he had yet to earn. These alien warriors had fought many battles, lost many leaders, and carried scars both visible and hidden. They were waiting to see if he was worthy. John stood before them, his voice steady but soft. "I know I am new to this. I don't have your experience, your strength, or your history. But I want to learn. I want to lead you well." Some faces softened, others remained unreadable. Lyra, the oldest warrior and unofficial leader, stepped forward. Her voice was calm but held power. "Captain, words are easy. Action is what counts. We have survived because we trust those who do more than talk." John nodded. "I will earn your trust. Please tell me about you, your history, your fight." One warrior, tall and quiet with bright blue skin, spoke for the first time. "We are the Valyrians, once proud defenders of the Valyrian Empire, a great power lost to betrayal and war. We serve now to protect what remains of peace." Another warrior, her eyes like molten gold, added, "We fight not for glory but for survival. We trust no one easily, not even a captain who is human." John listened carefully. He realized these warriors carried deep pain, loss, and a fierce will to protect what little they had left. Their beauty was not just in their form, but in their strength and honor. As days passed, John tried to learn the alien language, their customs, and the ship's many secrets. The crew watched him closely, sometimes helping, sometimes testing him silently. One evening, John joined a training session. The alien warriors moved with grace and deadly precision. Their weapons were, unlike anything John had seen, blades that shimmered with energy, bows that fired arrows of light. He was clumsy but tried his best. Lyra observed silently. Later, she approached John. "You lack skill, but you have heart. That is rare." John smiled. "Thank you, Lyra. I will not fail you." But not all were as kind. A warrior named Sarek, fierce and cold, challenged John often. "How can you lead us? You are weak. You do not belong here." John met Sarek's cold stare. "Maybe I am weak now, but I will grow stronger, and I will protect you all no matter what." Sarek sneered but said nothing. The tension in the crew was like a storm ready to break. John felt alone but knew he could not give up. Then came a new message from the fleet command. A nearby colony was under attack from the same enemy ships. The Valiant was ordered to defend it. John gathered the crew. "This is our chance to prove ourselves, not just to others but to each other." The warriors prepared quickly, their usual, silent focus returning. John gave orders, learning how to speak in their way, using their tactics. During the battle, John saw the warriors' skills in full force. They moved like shadows, striking hard and fast. The Valiant danced through enemy, fire shields flashing. John's confidence grew. He gave commands with clearer voice and stronger heart. After the fight, as the crew repaired the ship, Lyra spoke privately to John. "You have shown courage today. But remember, courage alone is not enough. Trust must be earned every day. John nodded. I understand. I will not forget. That night, John sat by the ship's observation window. Stars stretched across the dark sky, cold and endless. He thought of his home, his quiet life now far behind. Ahead lay danger, mystery, and a crew that might never fully accept him. Yet something inside him burned bright, a spark of hope, a promise to become more than he ever imagined. He was not just a technician anymore. He was captain of the Valiant, and he would fight to be worthy. Battle of trust and steel, the Valiant flew through space, its engines humming steadily. Captain John sat on the bridge, eyes fixed on the glowing screens. The crew moved around him, readying for the next battle. Though John had learned much, he still felt the weight of doubt pressing on him. Could he really lead these alien warriors? Could he protect them and himself? The enemy fleet had grown stronger. Scouts reported more ships gathering near a vital star system. John's orders were clear: defend the system at all costs. Failure meant disaster not just for the colony but for the whole sector. As they approached the battle zone, tension tightened like a wire. The alien warriors were silent but alert. John noticed how they watched him, measuring every word, every move. He was no longer just a man. He was their captain now, and they expected him to act like one. The first enemy ships appeared as tiny specks on the radar. Suddenly, the quiet shattered. Alarms blared. Red lights flooded the bridge. Battle. Stations! John shouted, his voice steady despite his pounding heart. The Valiant shuddered under the first laser blasts. Outside, bright beams cut through the darkness. John watched as the alien warriors took their positions, their faces calm but fierce. Lyra stood beside him, her eyes sharp. "Follow my lead," she said softly. "Trust in the Valyrian way." John nodded and focused. The enemy pressed forward, fast and ruthless. The Valiant's weapons fired back, missiles streaking through space. John gave orders quickly, learning to trust his instincts and the crew's skills. A sudden warning flashed. Enemy boarding pods were closing in. The Valyrians readied to repel the attack. John's hand shook slightly, but he kept his voice firm. "Sarek, lead the boarding defense. Protect the ship." Sarek grunted but moved swiftly, gathering a team of warriors. John felt a flicker of respect for the fierce alien. Maybe Sarek did not trust John yet, but he followed orders without question. The boarding pods hit the ship's hull. The Valyrians clashed with enemy fighters in the dark corridors. John watched the battle unfold on the cameras, blades flashing, energy crackling, warriors fighting with deadly grace. Back on the bridge, John coordinated defenses, adjusting shields and targeting systems. A moment of chaos hit when a blast hit the power core. The lights flickered and the ship trembled. John's mind raced. He remembered his training and shouted, "Divert power to backup systems, reroute shields to the aft." The crew worked like a well-oiled machine. Slowly, power returned. The Valiant stabilized. Amid the chaos, John noticed a young warrior named Alara. She moved quickly, helping injured crew members and fighting enemies without hesitation. John saw the strength and kindness in her eyes, a symbol of what the Valyrian spirit was. After a fierce struggle, the enemy began to retreat. The Valiant was damaged but victorious. John breathed deeply. He looked at the crew, tired but alive. Some gave him small nods, silent signs of approval. Lyra stepped forward and placed a hand on John's shoulder. "You have fought well, Captain. Today you showed the strength we need." John smiled, feeling a warmth he had never known. Trust was growing, slowly but surely. Yet even in victory, questions remained. Why had the enemy attacked so fiercely? What secrets did they hide? John knew this was just the start. The warship and its crew had many battles ahead. But for now, the Valiant sailed through the stars, united by battle and a captain who was learning to lead. Secrets beneath the surface. After the battle, the Valiant drifted through the dark reaches of space, its wounds healing slowly under the careful hands of the crew. Captain John sat in his small cabin, the weight of command heavier than ever before. Victory had been won, but questions and doubts gnawed at him. He could feel the eyes of the Valyrians on him still, some filled with hope, others with silence or suspicion. These warriors carried more than just physical scars. There were secrets deep and hidden beneath the ship's surface and beneath their armor. One evening, restless and unable to sleep, John decided to explore the ship beyond the bridge and common areas. He wandered through long, dim corridors, feeling the hum of ancient machines beneath his feet. In a quiet corner, he discovered a sealed room marked with strange symbols. His curiosity pushed him forward. After searching for a way inside, he found a small panel and, using his technician skills, unlocked the door. Inside, the room was filled with old data crystals, holobooks, and faded holograms. John activated one. Images flickered to life. Scenes of Valyrian warriors in a great city, shining towers and wide battlefields, a once glorious empire thriving under twin suns. Then, the images changed. War erupted. Betrayal from within shattered the Valyrian world. Families lost, cities burned. The Valyrians' fall was swift and terrible. John felt a pang of sympathy. These proud warriors had lost everything. Their loyalty now was shaped by pain and a desire to protect what little they had left. As he watched, footsteps echoed behind him. Lyra entered quietly. "You found the archives?" she said softly. Not many dared to look. John nodded. "I wanted to understand you, your past." "Why?" "You fight," Lyra sighed. "The Valyrian Empire was our home and our prison. We were betrayed by those we trusted most. Now we serve on the Valiant, guarding peace and waiting for a future that may never come." John looked at her. "And your trust? Can I earn it?" She met his gaze steadily. "Trust is fragile, but you have shown courage and heart. Keep walking this path and you may find more than loyalty. You may find family." Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent alarm. A hidden saboteur had triggered a breach in the engine room. John and Lyra rushed to the scene. The crew worked to contain the damage, but the attack was no accident. Someone aboard the Valiant wanted to weaken them, perhaps even destroy the ship. John's mind raced. A traitor in their midst would shatter the fragile trust he had just begun to build. As the engineers repaired the damage, John gathered the crew. "We face not only enemies outside, but dangers within. We must stand united and find the one who betrays us." The Valyrians' faces hardened with resolve. Sarek, once John's harshest critic, spoke up. "No one will bring down the Valiant, not while we breathe." John saw in Sarek's words a new respect, a sign that the crew was ready to fight together. But the shadows aboard the ship grew deeper. Secrets, lies, and old wounds threatened to tear them apart. John knew that to save the Valiant and its crew, he had to be more than a captain. He had to be their leader, their shield, and their hope. As the stars blazed cold and distant outside the ship's hull, John steeled himself for the challenges ahead. The real battle was just beginning. Uniting. Under one flag, the Valiant sailed through the quiet stars, but the tension aboard the ship was anything but calm. Captain John felt the weight of the hidden threat pressing down on the crew. The sabotage attempt was a warning. Danger lurked not only outside but within their walls. To survive, they needed unity, trust, and strength. John called the crew to the main hall. The Valyrians gathered, their proud faces serious and wary. John stood before them not just as a man but as their captain. The moment to prove himself had come. "I know many of you still doubt me," John began, his voice steady but humble. "I am not the strongest or the most skilled among you, but I will fight for each of you with everything I have. Together, we are stronger than any enemy or traitor." A silence fell over the room. Then, slowly, Lyra stepped forward. "The captain speaks with truth. We have faced countless battles and betrayals. Today we face one more, our own fear and doubt." Sarek, who had once challenged John openly, nodded. If we stand divided, we fall. If we fight as one, nothing can break us. John felt a surge of hope. This was the beginning of something new. The Valyrians were willing to follow him, not just out of duty, but out of trust. Over the following days, the crew worked harder than ever. John helped lead repairs, learned more about Valyrian combat and strategy, and shared stories of Earth and humanity. He found moments of laughter and warmth with the warriors who had once been strangers. Ilara, the young warrior who had impressed him in battle, often trained alongside him. Her patience and strength inspired John to push beyond his limits. Slowly, their bond deepened, not just as captain and crew but as friends. But the threat of the traitor still loomed. John organized patrols and security checks, watching the crew closely but fairly. Suspicion whispered through the halls like a cold wind. Then came a critical mission, a call for help from a nearby colony under siege. The Valiant was to lead the rescue. John prepared his crew with a mix of pride and nerves. This mission would test their unity like never before. As they approached the battle zone, the Valyrians moved with grace and deadly purpose. John gave orders confidently, his voice calm and clear. The Valiant struck hard. Alien warriors fought fiercely on the ground and in space. John coordinated ship defenses, protected transports, and led daring strikes. During the fight, Sarek saved John from a sudden enemy ambush. "You're not just a captain anymore," Sarek said quietly. "You're one of us." John nodded, grateful and humbled. The battle ended with victory, but not without cost. The crew mourned fallen comrades, but their spirits were unbroken. Back aboard the Valiant, John addressed the crew. "We fought as one today. This is the power of trust and unity. From now on, we stand together, no matter what comes." The Valyrians raised their weapons in salute, a powerful symbol of their new bond. But the shadow of the traitor had not yet lifted. Secrets still hid in the ship's dark corners, waiting to strike. John knew the true test was still ahead, but with his crew united, he was ready to face it. The Valiant's engines hummed with renewed strength, carrying them toward the unknown. And Captain John was no longer just a man. He was a leader, born of battle, forged in trust, and ready to face destiny. The human will, the Valiant drifted through space, wounded but alive. Captain John knew the greatest dangers were yet to come, not just from enemy fleets, but from within. The traitor aboard the ship had not yet revealed themselves, and John's heart weighed heavy with the burden of leadership. One quiet day, as the crew repaired battle damage, a sudden attack hit. Enemy fighters swarmed the Valiant, faster and more vicious than before. The alarm screamed through the ship and chaos erupted. In the thick of battle, a sudden explosion rocked the bridge. John was thrown to the floor, dazed and injured. The last thing he saw was the enemy boarding pods, opening, dark shapes pouring into the ship. When John awoke, he found himself captive in a small, cold cell deep inside the Valiant. His hands were bound, his body weak, but his spirit burned strong. He thought of his crew, the Valyrians who had come to trust him. He would not let them down. Days passed in silence and darkness. John listened carefully, learning the routines of his captors. He watched for any chance to escape. His mind raced with plans, but his body was slow and tired. Still, he refused to give in. Outside, the Valyrians prepared a daring rescue. Lyra led a small team through hidden passages, moving with deadly precision. The Valiant's traitor was revealed during the attack, a crew member twisted by fear and greed. Sarek fought fiercely to protect the ship, proving his loyalty. John's rescuers reached his cell, just as enemy forces tightened their grip. With strength, born from desperation, John broke free from his bonds as Lyra smashed the door open. "Captain," Lyra exclaimed, "we're here." John rose, pain and hope mixing in his chest. "Let's finish this." Back on the bridge, John and the Valyrians coordinated a fierce counterattack. John's calm voice guided the crew through the chaos. His courage inspired the Valyrians, reminding them why they fought, not just for survival but for something greater. The Valiant turned the tide. Enemy ships fell one by one and the boarding forces were pushed back. After the battle, the crew gathered, exhausted but victorious. John looked at them, pride shining in his eyes. We survived because of our will, human and Valyrian. Together, we are unstoppable. The Valyrians cheered softly, their loyalty now unbreakable. But beyond the stars, a darker threat waited, one that would challenge John and his crew like never before. For now, the Valiant sailed on, stronger, united, and ready. Captain John had become more than a leader. He was a symbol of hope and the fierce will of humanity in the vast cold of space. Wry and new beginnings, the Valiant flew through the endless blackness of space, its hull scarred but its spirit unbroken. Captain John stood on the bridge, eyes steady, heart strong. The final battle was near, a battle that would decide the fate of not just the Valiant and its crew, but the entire sector. Reports came in fast. The enemy fleet had grown larger and more dangerous. This was no longer a small skirmish. It was a full-scale war. John looked around at his crew, the Valyrians, once strangers, now brothers and sisters in arms. Lyra's calm gaze met his, Sarek's fierce presence stood firm, and Ilara's quiet strength inspired hope. Today, John said, we fight not only for survival but for honor, for our future, and for the bonds we have built. No matter what happens, we face this together. The crew responded with silent nods and ready weapons. The Valiant's engines roared as they charged into battle. The enemy ship swarmed like a dark storm, lasers cutting through space, explosions lighting the void. The Valiant moved with grace and power, weaving through enemy fire. John gave commands. With clarity and confidence, each order a thread in the tapestry of battle. The Valyrians fought beside him, their skill unmatched, blades flashing, energy crackling, courage burning bright. The battle was fierce and brutal. The Valiant took heavy hits, but John's leadership held steady. He inspired his crew to push, beyond fear, to trust each other with their lives. Amidst the chaos, Sarek saved John again, diving in front of a deadly blast. Ilara led a squad to disable the enemy's command ship. Lyra coordinated ship defenses, her calm voice a beacon in the storm. Slowly the tide turned. Enemy ships exploded one by one, their formation breaking apart. John seized the moment. All weapons focus fire on the enemy flagship. The Valiant's cannons roared. A massive explosion rocked the enemy ship, sending it spiraling into darkness. Victory was close. As the last enemy ships fled, cheers erupted aboard the Valiant. John looked at his crew. Tired, wounded, but victorious. This victory belongs to all of us, John said, his voice filled with pride. We are more than a crew. We are a family. Lyra stepped forward, her eyes shining. You have earned our trust and our hearts, Captain. The Valiant will sail with you as long as the stars shine. John smiled, feeling a warmth he had never known. The journey had been long and hard, but together they had become something greater than themselves. As the Valiant set course for home, John looked out at the stars. New adventures awaited, new challenges to face. But for now he knew this. He was no longer just a man who suddenly got command of a warship. He was a leader, a hero, and a symbol of hope in the vast, dark universe. And with his crew by his side, he was ready for whatever the future held.